You guys want to have a seat? We'll go ahead and get started real quick. And I know you guys had lots of questions, and I may answer some of these questions as I'm talking. I do appreciate the invite. My name is Michael, coordinator for the Locke and Navidad River Authority down in Edna. But I also own a company called Wild Texas. And on the weekends, I go around and do programs like this. I do with animal safety training for municipalities, for animal control, for water companies, electrical companies, TxDOT, Border Patrol, things like that, oil companies out in West Texas. And so that's probably one of the favorite things that I do. But we do snake identification. We do things like this. It's called Snakes Alive. It's just a basic introduction to snakes. I'm not going to get into the whole natural history of every one of these animals. I'm not going to get into the taxonomy or all the, how one lung is this long and one lung is this long. None of that stuff. We're just going to talk about snakes. They're by far my favorite group of animals. It started for me as a kid. I was infatuated with dinosaurs, and then I just never grew up. And so people ask, how do you get to be a herpetologist? How do you get to be a biologist? You fall in love with nature and don't grow up. That's the best way to do it. And so I've been doing this for almost 30 years. And so I drove my parents crazy as a kid. I grew up in a town of 10,000 people, and nobody even knew what a herpetologist was. You say that in fact you were talking about some sort of disease, you just go get shot penicillin up, And so you talk about that kind of stuff, and growing up in a time before the internet, which some of you guys just don't even know anything about, I actually got a lot of my information on a thing we call books. I don't know if you guys know what those are anymore, but books is where I got a lot of my information. Again, I love doing these programs. Here in Bexar County, we have 34 species of snakes. Most people don't realize we have that many species right here in Bexar County. However, out of those 34, only 5 are venomous. So I'm going to put you on the spot. 34 species, 5 of them are venomous. So how many are harmless? 34. 29. So there are 5 species that are dangerous. That means there are 29 that are not. And people are like, well, how do I tell the difference between the venomous and non-venomous? The easiest way, learn what the venomous look like. When you go to, as a banker, when you go to school and you're going through training, they don't show you every type of counterfeit bill. They show you the real thing, so you become so familiar with the real thing when it's not real, when one that's not real comes across, you see it automatically. Same thing, that's what I tell people with these guys. If you learn the venomous, the other ones come easy. You don't have to worry about them. If you try to learn every one of them, it takes time, it just takes a lot of effort. But if you just learn the venomous, 2 of them are easy. They have rattles. So that eliminates those right there. The third one has lots of colors. Okay, that eliminates that one. Even though it was very similar to this, they say red and yellow kill a fellow. So red and yellow touch is venomous, red and black, venom black, or friend of Jack. Well, the problem with that is these guys are both nocturnal, usually. So if you see them in your yard at night, what are they doing? Are they just sitting there? No, they're moving as quickly as they can. If you're using your cell phone flashlight or even a flashlight, and you're going through going, is that red and yellow? Or is that red and black? No, what? You're going to get, something bad could happen. Well, here's what I tell people, and excuse the language, but if you see a snake, leave the darn thing alone, okay? Just don't touch it. And guess what's going to happen? You're not going to get bit. More people are bitten by venomous snakes by either trying to capture or kill. Very few people are bitten by just walking along and getting bitten by a snake. That just doesn't happen. Over the past 10 years, from 2000 to 2010, in the United States, there was an average of 5 people annually killed by snake bites. That's 5 tragedies. That's 5 horrendous things that families have to go through. I would never want to go through something like that. However, having said that, it's 5. I mean, again, I'm not making light of any tragedies, but that's 5. In a population of 320 million, 5 is not a very high percentage. The chances of receiving a venomous snake bite is very, 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 very small. You have like a 416% chance better of winning the Powerball than you do of dying from a venomous snake. And so, snakes, a little bit about snakes. Snakes have a backbone. Yeah, you kids raise your hands. Everybody raise your right hand. Everybody raise your right hand. Lean forward. Feel your backbone. You feel that? You are a vertebrate animal. You have a spine. You have a backbone. Mammals, like humans, dogs, cats, elephants, mammals have a backbone. Birds have a backbone. They're a vertebrate animal. Fish have a backbone. They're a vertebrate animal. Amphibians, frogs, toads, salamanders have a backbone. They're a vertebrate animal. Reptiles, lizards, snakes, turtles, crocodilians. They have a backbone. Snakes are no different. The only difference between your body structure and a snake's body structure, well, there are a lot of differences, but one of the main differences is, what do they not have that we have?
Arms and legs?
Arms and legs. They have arms and we have arms and legs. They don't. They have a spine with all those ribs. And it's very interesting because those ribs, people are like, well, how come they have so many ribs? That's so they can move. A snake is just one elongated muscle. Every one of these ribs are attached to belly scales. On their back, and I'll show you one here in a minute when I pull a snake out, every one of these have scales on their back. They're really small that connects the skin together. Well, on the bottom, they've got scales that go all the way across. And those scales that go all the way across correspond with these ribs. So that's how a snake is able to use his ribs and muscles and those scales to grab and pull himself and crawl along. That's why if I were to set a snake on this, he would have a very difficult time moving because it's smooth, so he has nothing to grab onto. However, if I put him on top of a hay, he can move very quickly, or in dirt, or in leaves, or whatever. How many of you guys have ever heard that snakes are cold-blooded? How many of you guys have ever heard that? How many of you guys think that's true, that snakes are cold-blooded? How many think snakes? How many thinks that snakes are warm-blooded? How many think snakes are both warm-blooded and cold-blooded? And how many think snakes are neither warm-blooded or cold-blooded? Snakes are neither warm-blooded or cold-blooded. They're called ectothermic. Can you guys say ectothermic? Say it one more time. Say it one more time. Ectothermic. What that means, ecto is two words. Ecto, outside, thermic, heat. They get heat from outside sources. So we're endothermic. We generate heat on the inside of our body. We eat our food and we metabolize that food into energy. And that's how our body temperature doesn't change much. Anybody know what the body temperature of a human normally is? 98.6. Yeah, 98.6. And so if it's 100 degrees in this room right now, which thankfully it's not, if it's 100 degrees in this room, our internal body temperature is 98.6. But if it was 40 degrees in this room, our internal body temperature, not our limbs, but our internal body temperature would still be 98.6. Not so with these guys. We're endothermic, they're ectothermic. So if it was 100 degrees in this room right now, their body temperature would be 100 degrees. So how can an animal be cold-blooded if his body temperature is warmer than ours is? But if it was 32 degrees in this room, their body temperature would be 32 degrees. So how can an animal be warm-blooded if his body temperature can get down to freezing levels? So they're neither warm-blooded or cold-blooded. They're actually ectothermic. So if you learn anything at all, remember that. Snakes aren't cold-blooded, they're ectothermic, okay? And being ectothermic has lots of advantages. It has lots of advantages because they don't have to eat as much. Their metabolism is much slower. Most of the snakes I keep in captivity are fed once every 7 to 10 days, just one meal. And I'll get into the feeding in just a little bit. Some species that we were doing studies on in central Mexico and some of the mountains of central Mexico and San Luis Potosí, we estimated males ate anywhere between 4 and 6 times in a full year. That's it. That's all they needed to eat to survive. People think snakes. Usually when you say snakes, people, you had the response a while ago when I was talking about snakes. What did you do? You went, yeah, you went, eh. Why did you do that? You probably think that snakes are slimy. That snakes are gross. Believe it or not, snakes are actually very clean. They're one of the cleanest animals of the animal kingdom. Their skin is very dry. In fact, it's waterproof. If I were to go take him to the restroom, dip him in the water, pull him out, skin would literally, or the water would beat up on his back like that of a duck and roll right off. It looks very shiny, which that's what people think they get the slimy from. Here, feel it. Now, guys, if you ever see a snake in the wild, leave it alone. Don't touch it. Don't mess with it. Now is the time to do it. Now is your opportunity to touch.
Rattlesnakes feel different, right?
A little bit. They got a little rougher skin. I'll show you kind of what they feel like in a minute.
Nah, I really felt one.
Well, I mean, no. Not a rattlesnake, but a snake that feels like a rattlesnake. See how smooth it is? It's not slimy at all. How many of you guys have ever been fishing before? Raise your hands. Every time you catch a fish are slimy. The earthworms you use to catch a fish are slimy. Brothers and sisters, slimy. Snakes? I hope you guys join in, but you have to. Everybody get it. Peer pressure. Yeah, snakes are not slimy at all. They're one of the cleanest animals of the animal kingdom. Somebody was asking me earlier, and I'll go ahead and talk about that. How many of you guys, I want to ask you guys a question. This is for everybody, not just the kids. This is for everybody. By raising your hands, how many of you guys have ever taken a bath or a shower before? Lie to me if you have to, but raise your hands if you've taken a bath or a shower. Come on, dude, really? Every time we take a bath or a shower, we lose pieces of skin. We lose little bitty pieces of skin. Your skin doesn't come off all in one piece. If it does, you need to do two things. Number one, keep it. I want to laminate and hang it on the wall at the nature center. That would be really cool. And number two, go see a doctor because you've got a serious medical condition that you need to have a look at. Snakes, on the other hand, they don't shed off in one little piece. They don't shed off in small pieces. They shed off in one piece. What happens is their skin, their old skin dies, just like ours does. But when we use that loofah or poofer or washcloth or whatever, little pieces come off. Well, as a snake grows, its skin develops underneath the new skin. The old skin dies, and then the snake releases a liquid. It goes in between the old skins. And that's why a lot of times snakes will be really dull colored. This coral snake is actually getting ready to shed. That's why he's so dull colored. Usually he'd be more bright, vividly colored. But he's really opaque looking because he's got that skin that's about to come off. That's why people talk about a rattlesnake or all snakes get those blue eyes. Because what happens is that milky substance in between the two layers of skin is kind of a milky looking, and so it covers their eyes. Snakes don't have eyelids like we do. They can't open their eyes and close their eyes like us. They have a covering over their eye. So their eyes are always open, constantly. It's just a scale. Well, that milky substance even gets between those scales, and so it's really opaque, and that's why people say, oh, it's that time of the year when rattlesnakes can't see. Well, it's not necessarily the time of the year, but that is true. They can't see as well. The garter snake's getting ready to shed, and this guy's getting ready to shed. This one, the cottonmouth just shed his box from when I packed him this morning. So on the way up from Corpus or Victoria, he shed his skin. But they, so as they grow, that's how you get this. Now, if you notice, I was even telling you about the eyes. You can see the eyes. The eyes is covered with the eyes. It's just, that'd be like me pulling out one of his hairs and chasing him. See the eyes?
Skin is that one not
An indigo snake.
big too, right?
Mm-hmm. Now,
How long does it take them to shed the skin?
a few minutes. It really takes just a few minutes. Now, people talk about snakes, about how big they can get. You know, you see all the time, you see these, you go into a feed store, not a feed store, I'm not picking on Locke, but if you go into some shops, you'll see like a big snake skin stretched across the like a dining room or whatever. Chances are the snake was nowhere near that big because these scales are not their skin. The skin is actually in between the scales. A snake's skin can actually stretch up to 40% of its actual size. So if a snake was 5 feet, you can stretch that thing out to almost 9 feet long. So that's why, and something else, I was saying a while ago about the internet. That usually you see stuff like that on the internet. One of my favorite sayings is, the internet is a great tool, but it can make a great fool. Because anybody can put anything on the internet, and because it's on the internet, it's true. How many of you guys have seen those pictures recently? Well, they actually been going on for years. Some guy, usually somebody's best friend's cousin's second brother from his second, third sister's wife's side, whatever. I found this in my backyard. He's got a snake, and he's holding it up like this. And they say, look, it's a 10-foot rattlesnake. It weighed 120 pounds, and da-da-da-da-da. And then you start looking at it reasonably going, okay, now wait a minute. Listen, I'm not a big, strong guy. However, as big and strong as you are, sir, I don't think you could take one of these 50-pound bag of rubber things, take 2 of them, put them on a hook that's aluminum, and hold it out like this, especially one-handed. I mean, maybe you got the Thor syndrome. I don't know. I don't get it. But when you look at it logically, it's kind of, and fishermen have been doing this for years. It's called forced perspective. And what happens is, fishermen never catch a fish and say, look how big this fish was, and hold it next to their body. What do? Look at this fish. In our 3-dimensional eyes, we can see the difference. We can see it. But in 2-dimensional photographs, you can't tell the difference. And so that's why you see these people who sit next to the Eiffel Tower doing stuff like, leaning against it or pinching it or whatever. It's forced perspective. The same thing happens with the snakes. And so when I do a program where I've got a PowerPoint, I show a picture. A friend of mine took one of these hooks, and we took this guy right here, and we had a picture of him holding it right next to him like this, so you can see, it's about 40 inches. And then we took a picture like this, and it looked like it really started here, went up the side of his body, and down the other side. And it's like it was the exact same snake. And so you got to be careful what you see on the internet. Now, some of the other snakes we have around here, well, I don't want you to feel this. This was what you were talking about, the rattlesnakes, how they feel. The one you just felt has what's called smooth scales. They got a little smooth scale. This guy have rough scales. They're a little more rough. These are often called chicken snakes. Their real name is a rat snake. With a name like rat snake, what do you think it is? Rats. Rats and mice. But technically, their name really should be bird snake. One of their favorite items to eat are birds. These guys can climb. We have found these guys climbing up on houses in between the bricks.
It's like what we had in our house.
Mm-hmm. Now, you see how he's sticking his tongue out at you? He's not looking at you going, oh yeah? That's not what he's doing. That's how he senses what's going on around him. He's not smelling. They have nostrils. He has a nose already. He has 2 holes right here. That's his nostrils, so that's what he uses to smell. He has taste buds inside of his mouth, so he's not tasting. He has an organ that we do not have. We have ears. He doesn't have ears. He can't hear. We can all scream as loud as we want to. It's not going to hurt him. I'm so sorry, guys. That should not have happened. Sorry. And so they don't have ears. They can't hear anything. So we can scream as loud as we want to. It wouldn't bother him. It would faze me. It wouldn't faze him. They have an organ in the roof of their mouth called a Jacobson's organ. This Jacobson's organ has 2 holes in the roof of his mouth. That's why a snake has a forked tongue. He literally in milliseconds will stick his tongue out, pick up air particles, pull it back into his mouth, put it into that organ, and sense what's going on around him. Can tell whether it's prey, a predator, grass, whatever. So that's why a snake is constantly going around, going like that. He's not looking at you going, oh yeah. That's not what his goal is. That's not what he's planning on doing. And so this is probably the most common non-venomous snake, or large non-venomous snake in Bexar County. Again, we have 34 species. This is the most common non-venomous large one. This is actually, and they come in a different variation of colors. Some are solid black, some are solid gray with blotches, some are yellow, some are orange, and some are a combination of the 2. But they always have that gray head. See how he's got that gray head? They always have that. Now you cannot tell if the snake is venomous or not by the shape of his head. See how his head is almost triangular. And when they get scared, they'll flatten their heads out like that. Again, the best way to learn if a snake is dangerous or not, learn the venomous ones. That way you don't have to worry about any of the other ones. Okay? And again, 2 of them have rattles, 1 of them has colors. Okay? Which leaves 2 others we'll talk about in just a minute. So this is a rat snake. So the first one you felt has smooth scales. These have called keeled or rough scales.
That rattlesnake still feels a little bit coarser.
A little rougher, yeah, they are. These are called keeled. These are really, really rough. All pit vipers have a really rough skin. Very simple. You know what? Here, this would be a good demonstration. This guy, this is a garter snake. This is one of the most common species that people find in their yards. They're really, really pretty. Like I said, this one's getting ready to shed. See how he's kind of dull colored? Normally he's kind of a green, bright yellow stripe, and see how he's kind of dull colored. Feel this guy. This is what a rattlesnake feels like. Feel up here, right? Feel those right up here. See how rough those are? I love the color of their tongue. Oh, it's red with that black tip.
We had one that was had like a black zigzag across his back.
That is a blackneck garter snake.
And it had like a teal color to it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
With like red eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, my dog are crazy, huh? Hey, that thing was like this big though, like that fat.
Pull away right here. Now, I'm ask you a question. Do you prefer for, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? Yeah, exactly. Poke, don't, or you stroke, don't poke. Now, in all fairness, I skipped one. I love that tongue. Red with the black. I'm a Texas Tech fan, so I'm like, all right. Spanking UTEP like they did yesterday. All right. What happened to the Longhorns? Oh, yeah, that's right, they lost. Oh, what happened to A&M? Oh, that's right, they lost. Tech won. It's a good day. Now, in order to be transparent, and I meant to start off the program with this, especially for you guys sitting on the hay bales, okay? I had a question earlier. If I ever have snakes get out. Earlier today, I was bringing an extra milk snake for a friend of mine. Somewhere in this room, I will tear this place apart before I leave. And I will find this milk snake. It's completely harmless, but if you see anything red, black, and yellow on the ground, just be like, hey, just point out, and I will grab it. Okay, I just want to be transparent. I just for the sake of transparency. Okay. So, all right. Now, snakes have a very unique way of feeding. Now, everybody open your mouth. Everybody open your mouth as big as you can. Who's got the biggest mouth? No, come on, keep going, keep going. Wow, dude. Oh, well, you know, it's pretty good. You see over here? Pretty good too. Come on, let me see. Come on. No, you. I'm talking to you. Yes. Pretty good, pretty good. As big as y'all's mouth, anybody's mouth in this room is. Can we take a baseball and put it in their mouth? No. Why? What stops it from happening? Your jaws. Your jaws are connected right here by bone, right? So you only open your mouth to a certain extent. Snakes lack that jaw. Oh, I'm sorry, that bone. I'm sorry. They lack that bone. We have two jaws. We have one on the top, one on the bottom. Snakes have four jaws. They have the top right, the top left, the bottom right, and the bottom left. And they can all work independently of each other. Now, snakes aren't rude. They just can't chew their food, right? They have one type of tooth. They have like these little needles that point backwards on their jaws. They have 4 rows of teeth on their top jaws and 2 on the bottom. So they've got 6 rows of teeth. And all the teeth look just like this. This looks really good to comb your hair. Well, I started to walk this way, but now I better not do that. See that? So those teeth are all pointed backwards toward the throat. Can you see that? The teeth that are pointed backwards? Now, somebody tell me, why do you think a snake's teeth would point down toward his throat?
Because that's what helps them swallow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like us. We have different types of teeth. We have teeth for chewing, teeth for grinding, teeth for cutting, but we utilize our fingers, our hands, a fork, and we put it into our mouth, we chew it and swallow it. Snakes they don't have that luxury. They can't do that. They literally have to open their mouth, grab their food. Here you can see the 4 rows of teeth up here. And now y'all be able to come up and take a look at this in just a minute too. So they literally open the mouth up like this and pull the food into their mouth. But a snake can literally open its mouth like this. Remember I was telling you about how, because of their metabolism, they don't have to eat very often? So when they eat, they eat larger meals. Okay, so for example, I'm fixing to feed a snake. This snake weighs approximately 100 grams. The mouse that I'm going to feed it weighs about 20 grams. Okay, so that's 20% of his body weight. So a snake, when it bites, it grabs its food, opens its mouth like this, and literally pulls the food into his mouth. Yeah, it's literally like, it's literally like they'll take one side. In fact, let's see if anybody's in the mood to eat. Besides me, but I don't want to mouth.
We do sell snake tongues too, just in case.
Snake tongue.
Ew.
All right, who just said dude? Okay.
I did.
Now, I know you guys are saying, ooh, a mouse. Ooh, number 1, it's dead. Number 2, how many of you guys have ever eaten at McDonald's before? Every time you eat chicken nuggets, you eat, well, it's supposed to be chicken, right? When you eat a hamburger, what are you eating? Beef, which is? Cow. Whenever you eat a sausage biscuit, what are you eating? Pig. When you eat a Taco Bell burrito, you're eating horse. No, I'm just kidding. But I'm just kidding. We'll try the one that I just had out. You in the back may want to be able to stand up. You guys, y'all can come a little bit closer if you want to come watch, but just don't come up too close. Well, this is when a snake feels the most danger, because when they grab on, they can't move real fast.
That one's not poisonous, right?
Now watch how he moves his jaws. He's going to take him a second. Well, I said it's going to take him a second to get used to it, but don't go that way. They usually swallow head first. The reason for that is, for example, that mouse. Have you guys ever petted your dog from the head to the tail? It's real soft, real smooth. But if you start from the tail and go back up towards the head, it's real rough, and so it's more difficult. Let go, grab his head, silly. You're going to swallow him from his tail end, aren't you? Performance issues.
And all snakes swallow their food whole.
Yes, they swallow their food whole. They can't chew their food, so he'll literally swallow that. Now, I was telling you, this snake weighs approximately 100 grams. That mouse weighs about 20 grams. That's 20% of his body weight. So that would be, let's say you weigh 100 pounds. I'm just guessing. Let's say you weigh 100 pounds. You would have to eat 20 pounds of hamburgers at one time to equal what he's eating right there. So basically, you'd have to go to McDonald's and eat 80 quarter pounders with cheese at one time. Could you eat 80 quarter pounders with cheese at one time? Probably not. Probably not in a month. Probably not in your, hopefully not in your lifetime. But anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But if you were to eat 80 quarter pounders with cheese, and then somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, let's play," and start shaking you around, what are you going to do? And you're going to see those cheeseburgers again. Same thing with these guys. So that's why snakes will eat, and then they'll go crawl up somewhere so things will not disturb them and they can digest their food, because it takes several days for these to digest. And so that's why they'll go curl up somewhere and not move around. It's because they don't want things to mess with them, because if they try to move quickly, then they will have to find more food, because that one will come up.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Anybody here have chickens? Because the Backyard Chickens Group talks about snakes on their website all the time. And there was a snake. When chickens aren't laying eggs like they're supposed to, you can put a ceramic egg in their nest and kind of gets them thinking about laying an egg. And a snake had swallowed the ceramic egg. So they're never going to be able to digest that thing or anything.
Yeah.
And the woman milked
Got it back out.
ceramic egg out.
And kudos to her, because there's a lot of people who actually put ceramic eggs in their nest to get rid of the snakes. And I'm like, that's a horrible death. Imagine eating something and then not being able to poop until you die. No, thank you. To see it now. So he swallowed it backwards. I know that's
Not what he was supposed
not what he's supposed to do, but it's working. But now, remember I was telling you about the scales are actually not the skin. The skin is in between the scales. See the scales? You can see the skin now in between the scales. Yeah, you can see where it's moving down as he's swallowing it. Now, in order to breathe during this process, they have what's called an epiglottis, and they push that out underneath the food item so they can breathe while they're eating. Don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move.
Oh, there you go.
Just kidding. It just so happened I placed that there long before y'all sat there. So it just so happened I had probably been ready.
That's what that was frog.
Now you see how he's swallowing? He's going to put his jaws back into place.
So where's his lungs at?
He has two lungs. One is extended. One lung goes from about here to here. The other one goes from about here to here. And so the right lung is very, very small.
Right, because their lungs are not like our lungs where they're side by side.
Right. Now, so he's going to swallow it. He's going to sit there. Now, see how he's putting his jaws back together, back into place? Now he's going to start pushing to swallow it. And then he's probably going to bite. And the reason he's going to bite me is he associates movement now with food. If they come across a nest of mice, there's usually not just one mouse. So what they'll do is they'll eat until they're all, until they're full. And so now if I reach 10, he's gonna be like, mouse, you got the mouse? But I'm gonna let him sit and get his kid. Yeah, it's the checkers on the back. They're often called garden snakes. Yes.
I had read that checkered garter snakes have just a slight amount of venom that wouldn't affect us. Is that not true?
There's a lot of debate on that still.
Yeah.
It's one of those internet debates that's not scientifically proven. What happens is people have gotten bitten by garter snakes and had a reaction. Well, in the wild, these guys don't eat just mice. They eat frogs, toads. You guys ever had a toad in the backyard and your dog bite the toad? The mountain starts frothing the mouth. That's because the toad is poisonous. He puts out, and those warts are actually poison glands. And so if these guys are eating toads, they get that bacteria in their mouth. So if it's not a captive snake, it's one that's wild caught, and it bites you, you get that bacteria. Anytime you're bitten by any animal, whether it be a snake or a dog, a cat, a kid, whatever, anything that has a mouth can bite. The worst thing that can happen is secondary infection. Even with venomous snakes, the doctors are more worried about secondary infection than they are the actual bite itself.
What's that mean?
Bacteria and other
Like the doctor's
pathogens.
gonna get?
No, but the bacteria get into the skin through the puncture wounds. And so that's why in the doctor's office, when you have surgery, everything's so sterile. They don't want any sort of other bacteria getting in it. Now the stomach is about right there where it stopped. You gonna come after me? Yep. I'm not feeding you again. But you guys can see the lump. So you went for the lump?
You've been trying to get on.
Now another one of my favorites are the king snakes. Now people, we talked about this with some of the folks who were here earlier. King snakes are awesome. What are the king snakes famous for? Anybody know? Eating rattlesnakes. I mean, yeah. Eating other snakes. However, they do not go out of their way to look for other snakes to eat. It's kind of like me with a Big Mac. You put a Big Mac in front of me, it's going to disappear, period. But I don't go out of my way, usually, to get one. And so, but you put it in front of me, it's going to happen.
I have a question.
Yes.
Isn't the king snake kind of like the king cobra where they eat other cobras?
They can, yes. Yes. Now, cobras, the difference with cobras do go looking for other snakes. They're called Ophiophagus. Can you say Ophiophagus?
Ophiophagus?
Ophiophagus. They eat specifically other ophiopods, which are snakes. So that's all they eat. That's the same with coral snakes. Coral snakes just eat other snakes. That's all they eat. These guys eat other snakes, but again, they don't go out of their way to look for them. They will eat rats, mice, lizards, small turtles, birds, and other snakes. In fact, he's probably smelling that other snake on my hand going, that smells tasty. These guys are very, very, very smooth as well, just like that milk snake. In fact, milk snakes and king snakes belong to the same family. No, y'all can't leave just yet. Wait one more second. I got one more thing to show you. I'm not going to scare you.
How does it eat pet snakes that people get at
Corn snakes. Corn snakes and ball pythons are the most common.
I want to do this.
Now again, if you guys see a snake in the wild, don't touch it. Leave it alone. Now's the time to do this. A desert king snake.
Isn't the rhyme for the coral snake red and yellow, filled with fellow, red and black, friend of Jack?
It is. The problem with that rhyme is it's only good in the United States. If you get to central Mexico, from central Mexico south, all bets are off. And also, usually both of them are nocturnal, so they're active at nighttime. So if you see a snake with colors in your yard, and if you're using your flashlight on your phone or a flashlight, you're falling going, is that red and yellow? Is that red? What color is it? You know the best thing to do? Just don't touch it. Just leave it alone. I'm gonna go ahead and try to feed this guy. I'm gonna try to feed this guy real quick too. You hold it for a second? You ever held a snake before? You're doing just good. Don't let him right. Yeah, just like that right there. Somebody has to make some mind if anyone's hungry for lunch. Good job. Guys, give her a round of applause.
He licked me. He licked me.
No, he didn't lick you. He smelled you.
Lick, smell, whatever. Now
And I was explaining earlier too, technically it's not smelling or tasting. They have an organ that we do not have called a Jacobson's organ. And it's in the roof of the mouth. Only squamates, those are the snakes, have those. They don't have ears. They can't hear us. To make up for that lack of hearing, they have an organ in the roof of their mouth called a Jacobson's organ. And that's why there's 2 holes in the roof of the mouth. So when a snake sticks his tongue out, that's why he's got the fork. That's the 2 parts. Picks up air particles, pulls it back into his mouth, and senses what's going on. He can sense what's going on around him. So he was just looking at you going, what are you? Are you friend or foe? Are you hay? Are you dirt? That's all he was doing. See if he swallows. See, he's doing it from the head down. But look, people say you can tell it's a venomous snake by the shape of the head. That looks an awful lot like a triangle to me. He's completely harmless.
So they use that triangle to scare off other predators.
They do. They do. And here's the deal. It works for everything except for humans. You get the hognose snakes that will flatten their heads and hiss and strike and try to scare stuff off and then play dead. All other animals leave them alone. Water snakes will flatten their heads out and strike and act all mean. Other snakes will leave them alone. People don't leave them alone. Bull snakes will rattle their tails. If they're in dry leaves, they sound like a rattlesnake. Or they'll actually inhale and push air. There's a piece of cartilage for their epiglottis that vibrates, and it sounds just like a rattlesnake when they get scared. And it works for all other animals except for humans. Yeah,
We're just too curious.
Yeah, well,
What that?
now, I need you to read this. I'll let him finish up real quick. I'll let y'all take a close look at him while I'm going by. Now I want you to look at the skin in between the scales. See that skin in between the scales? We're going to walk a little faster so they can see. Yeah, he's done this a few times. How do you eat? You put it in your mouth and go, you don't eat? Okay. He's actually 37 years old. No, I'm just kidding. All right. You two come up here, face that way. No, nothing bad. Nothing bad. You have a phone on you?
Yes.
Would you mind taking a picture, please? Oh, you too. Stand right here. Stand right here. Right here. Okay, close your eyes. Guys, tell me. Guys, yes, you can. Yes, you can. I promise. Guys, tell me if they open their eyes, okay? And I'll get something really bad out, okay? Guys, keep your eyes closed. If you keep your eyes closed, it's going to be really easy.
As long as it's not the poisonous one.
Guys, sit real still. Keep your eyes closed. Stay real quiet, real still. Keep your eyes closed. Get your camera ready. Y'all hold. There we go. All right, I'm going to hold it right here. I'm going to move out so you guys can get a picture. Okay, y'all open your eyes now. Smile.
I've got a 6 pictures.
Oh, okay. So here. No! Now, I bet when you woke up this morning, you didn't say, I'm going to put a 6-foot bull snake around my neck.
She's not even breathing.
You did it! Right here. Right here. Let's get it. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Thank you so much.
As big as python.
Well, bigger than a ball python. You remember this one, don't you? Okay, you ready? Let's go. Let's go. Turn around. Let Mom get a picture. Can you smile a little bit?
Aww.
Yes, big, big, big.
Aww. Thank you.
Oh, is that?
Thank y'all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It looks like the coral snake wants out.
He does, for sure.
Like, let me. Like, I want to bite someone.
I'll work my way over. I don't know. We caught him in 2015, and he was this size, so he's probably 20 years old.
Oh my god.
Yeah, very much so.
They just look so similar to a rabbit.
Oh, absolutely. You gonna try?
Which one is that?
Bull snake.
Oh, okay.
Now, if rat snakes eat rats, what do these guys eat?
He's big.
No, I'm just kidding. They eat mice. Turn around. Smile real big. Sit real still. I drink a lot of Cokes. I can use the restroom. I'll be back in just a second.
Goodness. Okay.
Tell me, what's he doing? Now, he's making you out. Oh, okay. Now, what they do is they grab on. He's not trying to choke. That's not what he's going to do. But he doesn't have any arms or legs. He's going to do everything he can. He'll be like me if you didn't have any arms or legs, and I'll pick you up this high. What are you going to do? You're going to use your body to do what you can to hold on. And that's what he's doing.
Now, do they constrict their prey?
They do. Bull snakes are constrictors. Now, constrictors don't crush their prey and make them like a mold, just a blob. What they do is they literally suffocate their prey. They'll grab onto whatever they're going to eat. They'll wrap around. Every time that animal exhales, they'll squeeze just a little bit tighter so the animal can't inhale anymore. And so they literally suffocate them very quickly. That's right.
Now, do the rat snakes constrict?
Yes, rat snakes, king snakes, milk snakes, bull snakes, those are all constrictors along with boas, pythons. Other snakes like the garter snake that y'all saw eat a while ago and the hog nose and long nose, they just overpower their prey. They grab and swallow it as it is. And of course, venomous snakes, the main purpose of venom for snakes is not to bite you. That's not what the main purpose of venom is. The main purpose of venom, come on. The main purpose of venom is to obtain food. You want to do the shot?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Does the venom, they can eat the animal, it doesn't poison the
Actually, it's better for them. Studies have shown that rattlesnake intestinal not issues.
It's another fall, I think. It's gonna fall.
There we go.
Thank you.
Their stomach set up is different than constrictors. Because what happens is when they envenomate their prey, it's a protein, so it begins the digestion process before they even find the snake, or before they find the prey. And so by the time they find it, it's already almost pre-digested. So their system is a little weaker than, say, like a constrictor. And guess what that is? If you see a snake in the wild, you never want to pet it. But if you see one here like this is the time to do it.
What do you think of that? What's it feel like?
Well, it hurts. Yeah.
Feels like a bill.
Right. Come on up here.
I'm super slim.
You're not too tall. I'm tall.
No, she wants me to have it on me with her.
Oh, you can do it. I've done it with parents and little bitty kids. You're good.
Come on, Mom. I'm
Say,
stupid one that picks them up.
look at Mom and say, Mom, it's for me.
Basically.
All right, go side by side. There we go.
Great. Kind of.
What does it feel like? Is it coarse, smooth?
Smoothville.
Got two. There you go.
How much does this one weigh?
Oh, probably 4 or 5 pounds, maybe. All right, Mr. Estes, come here.
man, give me the creeps. Hi guy, how are you?
Turn around. Y'all need to get this on video? This is a Facebook moment right here.
I think he feels kind of rough.
Yeah, he's got kind of rough
Belly.
scales compared to the. That would be a good time to show people. Remember I was telling you? Don't want to photobomb.
How many snakes do you personally own?
A lot.
Oh my god.
About 300. See the belly scale? Remember I said
different one too.
Do you sex them or do you have
That's the most poisonous one you have.
probably the Mojave rattlesnake. Remember I was telling you his skeleton? How the skeleton is attached to muscles which are attached to the belly scales? These are the belly scales. This is what the uterus are called.
There we go, get it quickly.
He likes you.
He does like me. He just wants to kiss me. So what kind of snake is that? Really pretty. Yeah. You pop my head.
Once you get one snake, it's like Pringles. Once you pop it, you can't stop.
Is your camera ready? I'll just hold it until your camera's ready. Ready? There you go. Isn't it so bad? See the belly scales? That's how they move. That's how they move. Muscles. That's how they move.
Don't mind.
Well, again, guys, like I said, there are 34 species of snakes found in Bexar County. Of those 34, 5 are dangerous to people. 2 of them are rattlesnakes, so you can eliminate, you see the rattle, you know it's venomous. The other is the coral, you can see the colors. Even though the mimic, the milk snake, has the same colors, they're arranged in different patterns. Red and yellow, killicolor, red and black, venom black. However, these guys are much more common than milk snakes are in Bexar County. And I mean a lot more common. So that leaves the last 2, the moccasins, the copperhead, and the cottonmouth. Cottonmouths have not been recorded in Bexar County in almost 30 years. The ones you see down at the San Antonio River are either diamondback water snakes or blotched water snakes. There's not been an official documentation of cottonmouths in Bexar County in almost 30 years. They prefer shallow, stagnant, nasty water that's full of lily pads, the type of water when you're walking, you step it, you sink up to here in mud. That's what they prefer. Water snakes prefer fast-flowing, clear, moving water. And so cottonmouths very rarely climb trees. When you're boating, you see a snake 5, 10 feet above you on a tree, it's probably a water snake. Cottonmouths very rarely get up that high. They may get about this high above the surface of the water. And so,
The water moccasins are usually by the river, right, when you're going tubing and stuff?
yes, depends on here in San Antonio, not really. But like if you get into, they're not really in Real County in that river, but like the what now? Yes. Yeah, the Guadalupe, down around Palmetto State Park. They're really calm. They're really calm around Palmetto, and the Guadalupe around Seguin. And then
They just stay away from the sides.
yeah. I mean, but again, cottonmouths, and I'm not saying they're not dangerous. Okay, please, this is not what I'm saying. But they're actually very benign. They are very relaxed. The first time I ever found these in West Texas, they extend up to the Concho Valley. They are found nowhere in the Panhandle and nowhere west of the Pecos River. So that movie Lonesome Dove is shot out of the water. The guy fell into the nest of cottonmouths. They don't nest like that, number one, but number two, they're not found that far west. I had a guy from Florida go to teach me how to find cottonmouths. I'm like, it's really easy. I'm like, man, I've looked out here and I haven't found one. He's like, it's easy. We had a space of shoreline from about the fire extinguisher to the blue Jeep. And walking along there, people were fishing. There were all sorts of people fishing at nighttime. And we're walking with a flashlight, and he's like, oh, there's one. Oh, we're going to take another few steps. Here's another one. I mean, they're between people fishing, and people never even saw them. I mean, because they prefer to be left alone. Snakes are more, I know it sounds crazy. I wish these folks were here still, but snakes are more afraid of you than you are of them. If you remove human emotion and just look at it logically, we're a predator that's 800 times their size. They want to avoid us at all costs. And so when a rattlesnake rattles, he's not rattling saying, oh yeah, I'm coming to get you, I'm coming to get you. He's rattling saying, I see you, I want you to see me. Let's avoid contact, okay? That being said, guys, that's pretty much my program. If you have any questions, feel free to come on up and take a look. I can ask questions while you're up here. You guys can come and take a look at some of this stuff. I do appreciate y'all being here today. Yes, ma'am.